And welcome to Health, Wealth, and Happiness Monthly Mastery. Boy, do we have some stuff to cover today. It seems like more and more people I'm talking to, both in the high performance coaching work that I do, but also in the business and internet mastery work that I do, they're seeing more and more identity theft or attempts at people trying to gain access to their accounts. Today's topic, very clear for you, 7 steps to securing your online identity. We're going to go into some advanced tactics that are pretty easy to set up. So I'll be kind of walking you through that. But as you know, when we step into our work, we first start with the big picture, as our job is to help you consistently maintain health, wealth, and happiness on an enduring basis for the rest of your life. And that's my challenge for you. And I'm here to make sure that I'm supporting you, challenging you, instructing you, illustrating for you, all these things along those lines. And let me tell you, getting your identity stolen or part of your identity taken or a bank account, overrun and people pulling money out. A few of the people in our mastery community have had that happen, actually. That detracts from all of these things, and I want to make sure we're doing whatever we can to take care of you, to help you avoid that possibility by putting some practice, some good best practices in play, we'll call it that, and making sure that you've got this stuff dialed in and you're assessing things every so often, double checking on the fact that you can still log into some accounts, especially retirement accounts, stuff like that. Before we get into any of that though, we have to keep perspective with the big picture. Then we'll dive into the training. And finally, we'll dive into the tactics. My goal for you by the time we're done is that you have a very specific actionable list that you can go step by step through and own to make sure you're taking care of things now, but also in the future as well. Maybe scheduling every quarter, every half year, whatever that is for you, to just double check you still got access to your accounts and you're on your path and taking care of things so that you don't have any surprises down the road either. So first and foremost, let's go ahead. If you don't have it yet, get the Wheel of Perspective. The link's available for you below. And it's a one-pager that looks a little bit like this. Circle. You got all these different areas. We're going to make sure that we keep you in line with feeling health, wealth, and happiness. These are the 10 things I had to dial in back in 2012 and 13 to assure I dialed this in, and my energy, my ability to serve, take care of you, all those kind of things. But most importantly, for me to really lose about, at the highest, it was around 75 pounds. At the highest, I was at 270. Now I'm down to about 195-ish. And I've kept it that way for almost 7 years now. It's coming up, my 7th year anniversary. I just want to celebrate that. If you've been on a journey like that, you know keeping that consistency around that lifestyle that supports you, having more energy, less weight, all these things can be difficult. But again, that's what we're all about. That's what we're here for. These are the 10 areas that help with that, but also help live more purposefully, to help you, especially in today's topic, along these roads of taking care of you, your family, those you care for, love, serve, and yeah, the world too. Thank you so much for being here. Let's go ahead and jump in and start with the very first item in the 10-day Health, Wealth, and Happiness Challenge, which is also the Wheel of Perspective. The Wheel of Perspective was built from my 10-day Health, Wealth, and Happiness Challenge, where I walk you through each of these topics one per day. If you want to get into that, the link for that is below as well. Very first topic, sleep. So my challenge for you now is to think about the last month. From today backward a month, how well have you slept soundly 7 to 9 hours a night on average? 0, not at all. 10, crushing it. What's showing up for you there? If it's below an 8, you know what? Let's do the no 8 challenge today. So there can be no 8. If it's a 9, cool. If it's a 7 or below, then we got work to do. So what is it for you? And if it is a 7 or below, what's 1, 2, or 3 things you can do to level that up to get a little better sleep? Give you a couple real quick hits. 1 is to make sure sugar and caffeine, all these kind of things are dialed down or gone after 3-ish, depending on when you go to sleep. 2 is to make sure you have a great evening routine that winds you down. I love release meditation. Brendan Bouchard, our master coach in high performance, teaches that. You can go into YouTube, release, meditate. Simply put, it's just saying release, release, release. And I don't actually say it out loud. I say it in my mind. And I go to get sleep like fast. There's no stimulants going on though. No caffeine, none of that other stuff. Big point there. So I hope these things help. Also, the idea of keeping electronics away from you for the last hour before bed. That's also what a lot of people self-report as a good practice. So I hope these illustrations have helped you a little bit. Next up is hydration. And by the way, I gave myself a 9 on sleep. I did this just before our recording today for you. And I want to make sure you know I'm living into this. So whatever I'm telling you, I'm like the role model and the results expert. Because these are the things that I had to dial in to own this. Hydration is next. Are you drinking water, mostly water, not soda, not any sugary drinks, throughout the day? And do you have it around you? You know, are you drinking like a gallon of water a day? 3 to 5 liters of water a day? I know that seems like a lot, but our bodies are built like 70% water, right? We got to make sure we're hydrated. I got rid of dull headaches and all these things because of bumping up hydration. Next, eating. Are you eating nutrient-rich foods 80% of the time? Nutrient-rich meaning veggies, fruit, nuts, lean proteins, these kinds of things, 80% of the time? And if not, maybe you got to dial that up. So it's like 6 days a week. One day is kind of a cheat day, if you want to call it that, if you're kind of switching from a different diet to this diet. But how you've been doing in the last month here? 0, not at all. Well, 10, crushing it. 9 for me, primarily, especially at home. I've made it so that there isn't any boxed foods, and I'm dialed in to really eating well. If I go out, yeah, I'll get a little bit loosey-goosey, and that's cool. I might have a lasagna. I might have these little margarita pizzas down in Naples on 5th Avenue South. So delicious. But I'm right back on it. I don't have these things around me on the average. Does that all make sense? So how you doing there? 0? Yeah, I'm not eating nutrient-rich at all. I'm eating beige foods, man. Breads, burgers, crusts, croissants, whatever. Or 10, totally dialed in, have been living the lean. Some people call it the alkaline diet. Other people, the paleo kind of diet, Mediterranean. Just not eating the processed foods, refined sugars, those kind of things. Dialed in on fruits, veggies, healthy foods that give us nutrients. Like the best way to deliver nutrients into our body, whatever that is for you. If it's below, there's no 8s today. So if it's below a 7 or below, think about one thing you can do to maybe get that going. If you need some help, comment below. I've got tools, resources, things that I can just send you, or we can talk that through and really own this for you. My job is really, really important and really top of mind. That's to help you from where you're at to where you want to be. This kind of opens up possibilities for you, doesn't it? Next up, exercise. How have you been doing in the last 4 weeks of getting sweaty 2 to 4 times per week for 30 minutes or more? So I talk about upping cardio. Maybe it's a 2-mile run. Maybe it's working out. Just 2 to 4 times per week. That's what we teach in high performance, kind of just getting our heart and our body flowing and all that. So in the last month, what's showing up for you there? 0, yeah, what exercise? 10, not only am I doing it 2 to 4 times a week, I'm owning it beyond that and doing what's appropriate for you. So whatever that is, go ahead and rate yourself. I gave myself a 7. Little dial down on the high intensity stuff, so I'm working on that as I go into the next month to build that up just a little bit. Next, breaks. What we know from studies, and Thomas Edison even said this, is that when we take breaks consistently, we're able to sustain our energy longer through the day and be more productive through the day. So like a 5 to 10 minute break every hour, every 90 minutes. How are you doing there? 0, I don't take breaks. I just plow through and I'm done by 2, 3 o'clock. 10, I not only take breaks, but I set intention. I pull out of whatever I'm working on. I walk. I get motivated. I meditate. I listen to music. I set intention. I exercise a little bit. Any of those things. What's showing up for you cannot be an 8 today. If it's below, a 7 or below, you know the story. What's 1 or 2 things you're committed to raise that as you step into maybe the next month? Next up, and by the way, that's an 8 for me. I really have made that a habit. Really a conscious habit for me to just take those breaks and own those breaks towards living into, okay, how am I doing so far today? How am I, like today, for example, we're filming a lot of videos and I'm doing Zoom roundtables, all this kind of stuff. And I just want to make sure I got the appropriate amount of energy. So I'm taking breaks, energizing in between and really owning it. I hope I'm doing pretty well for you. Am I doing okay? Love this time together. Next up, happiness. Overall, There's two forms of happiness. There's a bazillion kinds of happiness you can experience, right? But in the work that I do, two major things. One, are you around people that uplift you more often than not? Two, are you learning new things consistently, creating things from what you've learned? It could be hobbies, it could be helping the world with, motivation or something you're a specialist in. And three, are you sharing that with the world consistently? So think of this, the trifecta of happiness is what we call it. Learn something new, create from what you've learned, share it with the world, repeat. Learn, create, share. Learn, create, share. Are you doing either of those things? What's your rating for the last month in those realms? I give myself a 9. Doing both of those things incredibly well. There's always room for improvement, so I'm on the hunt. Love that. Next up, finances. How have you done in the last month and I like to just simplify this, living into these 3 realms. 1, taking care of your break even. So you have a break even level of expenses, that what you have to pay to survive, to live. Having a layer above that, that's for fun and freedom. And then having a layer above that, that's putting money away for the future or paying debt or both. You follow? So how are you living into those 3 areas? Taking care of your break even, having fun and freedom, making sure you're living the life as you're moving along. And then on top of that, really going after that idea of, I'm saving for the future. It could be like a retirement plan or whatever that is, or paying debt if you have debt that you got to pay down, but you still take care of break even and having some fun. What you're doing there, I own that, but it hasn't always been that way. I've really worked that to dial in my spend rate and all these things I teach and coach. So if you need any help there, let me know. I've got resources wherever you're at. I probably have helped somebody. I can take care of that for you quick. Comment below, send me an email, whatever that is. Make sure we're taking care of that for you and owning that as we step into this realm. For me, that's a 10. Own that, take care of that, very careful about that, especially in light of what we're going to cover today in our training. Next up, presence. How present, engaged, connected, positive, joyful have you been with yourself and those around you in the last month? Where have you fallen out of presence? Back when I was a big boy, I'll call it, I fell out of presence a lot because I was kind of angry or hangry, if you want to call it that. But also, I just didn't feel good. And if that's maybe where you're at, I totally respect that. I've been there and I've helped dozens of people from there. So whatever that is for you, just let me know what I can do to maybe help you, or just talk to me. Say, I am feeling that way. I have no idea what to do. That's cool too. We'll take care of that. We'll help you along that path. Make sure you're taken care of as you move forward. So I give myself an 8 there. There's always more that I can do, and I find myself thinking about the future a little too much. And I got to just dial that in as I move into the next month here. So even though this is a no 8s challenge, I kind of made that rule up on the cuff. This I did give myself an 8 on. But if I was going to really be real with today's no 8 challenge, that'd be a 7. Because I know there's a lot I can do to level that up, and I'm on the hunt. So how are we doing so far? Are you feeling it? Is this working out well for you? So in line of all these areas, if this seems overwhelming to you, my challenge for you is very clear. Take one of these areas, prioritize the one that will make the biggest difference first, and make that a weekly goal for the next week. Take the second one, maybe make that the second week goal. So just concentrate on upping one area a week. And out of these 10 areas, we only covered 8 so far, you're going to see major progress over the next 10 weeks. Could you imagine at the end of 10 weeks, if just 1 week at a time you focused on sleep, just dial that in a little bit. Then the next week you focus on hydrating more, maybe you got dull headaches, whatever that would be. Maybe you're drinking a lot of sugar through sodas or whatever that is. And just dialing in a little bit. And the concentration for 1 week. Next, eating, a little more nutrient rich. Those kind of things. Can you see how this can stack? Darren Hardy talks about this in The Compound Effect, his book, The Compound Effect. All these little things stack up to exponential growth. And you feeling so great over the long term. And my dream for you is to feel like I feel right now, on fire, here with you, connected, present, engaged, knowing if I can just give you something to set a little better intention, take a little more action. We are on this. We're owning life. Life isn't owning us. Cool? Okay. Next, purpose. How purposeful have you felt in the last 4 weeks. Now keep in mind, highest performers report they feel purposeful when they're helping others do one of two things or both. Improve other people's lives, grow other people's businesses. So that can be more along the lines of an entrepreneurial small business endeavor. But at minimum, we're helping other people improve their lives and we're feeling good about it. And we've improved our own life along the way too. You follow? Like the arc of purpose in the big world of humanity is that. So maybe that isn't how you feel purposeful. You could feel purposeful just going through your day and being kind to everybody. You could feel purposeful just handling the responsibilities you've got, whatever those are. But how have you felt about your purpose in the last 4 weeks? 0, nope, don't have a purpose, don't even know what that is. I live in a world of struggle, of blame, excuse, denial, gossip. People around me are not supportive. And if that's where you're at and you need out of that, or you want to start to work to get out of that, please let me know. Got very powerful, self-reported from the people I've coached, ways they've done the same thing. You are not alone. Awesome stuff, isn't it? So good to hear that. Because so many people think, I'm alone, nobody gets it. You don't understand these kind of things. So for the last 4 weeks, 10, been crushing it every week in my self-care, with my family, with my love, with my mission, with my contribution, with my hobbies, my finances, spiritually, just on fire, really going after it. And I can only tell you, this has been many, many years of getting there. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, he's got everything going on. It's not it at all. I've worked it, I work it, I've got good habits in play, and I'm on that conversation every day, multiple times per day. So whatever it is for you, be real. If it's below an 8, because we're not using 8s today, go ahead, think of one way to up-level your purpose, and that might be by defining it. If you're in our mastery community, go back to session 11 in the core sessions. That is the purpose mastery session. And in that session is the purpose worksheet that helps you define who you want to be, what you want to do, and why it's important toward you being purposeful, along with something worth loving or fighting for that fuels your purpose. Follow? So I kind of gave you a couple hints there on what you can do, just a couple of distinctions. Finally, your daily plan. How are you putting this all in play on a day-to-day basis to really control your life versus have life control you? So do you have a daily plan? Do you assess it at night? Do you use one of these high-performance planners to really bring in how you want to feel as you work through your day? Do you think about it the night before, the morning of, and do you assess how you did during the day so you can do better tomorrow? These are all parts of the daily plan piece. And I give myself a 9. I'm on that, but there's always room for improvement on the planning stage in my mind. It's always that next level. But if it's below an 8 for you, go ahead. Think about it. What can I possibly do? And it might mean getting a high-performance planner. You can get those on Amazon, and I'll link to them below, to really assure you're taking care of your plan. Every day stacks into a week, weeks into months, and you're going to sense a much higher vibrance, connection, engagement with life when you've got your daily plan dialed in. So how did you do on the wheel of perspective? Did you crush it? I hope so. Every one of these things can be affected by this guy having your identity compromised, stolen, whatever that would be. So that being said, let's go ahead and pivot to fireworks, please, training, as we go ahead and step into our training work today. So real clear, I'm going to link below to a picture of this so that you can fill it out as we work through it. I will probably be building a worksheet for this after the training's complete as well, because I'm going to be really helping people with this. There's been a lot of demand for this topic. So if that worksheet's available, it'll show up either in the replay or down below as well. But minimally, I'll put a picture of this screen without stuff filled in so you can fill it in as we go along. So go ahead, click below, get the picture of this, print it. You might print it in black and white if you don't want to waste a lot of color. If you do, that's cool too. And we'll walk through this together. So here's the idea. Now more than ever, people are getting more and more savvy, especially the bad guys on the internet, for tracking us, finding out critical details, and doing what's called social engineering, meaning that they will call maybe your phone company as you, maybe a bank as you, or maybe set up a credit card or something like that as you, and they come across very convincing. And unfortunately, on the other end, there are policies and procedures in place, but not always followed. Human error. They seem like the right kind of They seem like they had the right information. They used the code word and all this stuff. And it's because they had already compromised your information. So we've got to really think this through. We got to get really detailed and articulate and plan for this only to get worse as we move into 2020, but also to take care of what we have now. Because as I talked about in one of my emails recently, I said, imagine waking up and your phone says no service, and then all of a sudden you can't access any of your email accounts, and then when you finally get into a bank account, it's empty. That's happened to people. I do not want it happening to you. Do you want it happening to you or someone you love? Care for? Serve? Probably not. If you know somebody who needs this information, please feel free to share this video. Please feel free to share this when it's filled out, whatever it is, to help them with the checklist, with going through these things and understanding why. So many people are like, oh, I don't have to worry about it. I got everything stored away. My husband takes care of that. My wife takes care of that. Somebody else takes care of that. No, you do need to worry about it, because we're going to start with a really critical piece, the fundamentals here. You follow? Very serious. And I want to make sure we're taking care of you, serving you, supporting you as we step into this conversation. So the very first thing is we think through these 7 steps to securing your online identity. Very first thing is the fundamentals. Try not to publicly share these critical 5 pieces of information. And a couple of these might shock you. The first one probably won't shock you. You should never share your social security number. Never ever share that, because that opens up all kinds of issues with people opening credit in your name, people being able to access things, because a lot of times it's the last 4 digits of your social that is one of the qualifiers they'll use to assure it's you. Do not ever share your social security number anywhere online, anywhere in the world. Don't post it on Facebook. Don't post it in LinkedIn, whatever that is. Don't post it. Next up, don't publicly share any of the banks that you use. What a lot of the people are doing right now, a lot of the bad guys on the internet, especially in other countries, is they're noticing if you've shared or said anything about a bank you're using or whatever that is they already have a place to focus their attention, and then they're going to grab other information to get the critical 5, is really what it boils down to call the bank on as you. Now the banks are getting better at this, but every bank varies, and you got humanity involved, right? So this is very critical. Do not share publicly any of the banks that you use. Some people are like, I would never do that anyway. Others are like, well, yeah, I was just at Chase and I checked in. Or I was just at whatever bank it is that you're at and I just checked in. These are critical pieces of information that people who want to steal your identity are looking for and on the scout for. And there's actually value for them sharing and selling that on the black market. They call it the dark web, just so you have an idea. It's crazy stuff. Next, never post, and assure you've hidden, if it is posted, your phone number. Your primary phone number, we'll call it. Especially the phone number that's connected to your bank account and anything else that you could log into. Like a lot of times people are on Amazon and you can log in with a mobile number now. They could log in as you, buy a bunch of stuff, have it drop shipped. This is where this can go. So we'll talk about ways to circumvent this in just a minute. But these are the critical 5 you want to be careful of not posting. Never post or share now online your primary email account. So I'll talk about what I mean by primary phone number and primary email account in a minute. Because if they have your email account and that's the same email account you use to log into your bank, you've just made it 10 times easier for them to potentially get into your identity. I hope you're seeing how this stacks. This, I'm pretty sure you're probably not sharing, right? This, you might be doing it by accident. This, you probably have it online somewhere. This, probably have it online. Website, in your profiles, whatever that is. But my challenge for you as you think this through is to set up a secondary phone number and a secondary email account that you use for public persona stuff. And how do you do that exactly? You could set it up. Let's just say your primary email account's a Gmail account. You could go to Hotmail or Outlook.com. Set up that. Best practice, if you want to be ultra secure though, is to set up an encrypted high-level email account with a service like Hushmail, HUSHMAIL.com. That's incredibly secure for what we're going to talk about in a minute, your level 1 logins. So I'm kind of jumping the gun here a little bit. but I want to make sure you're getting the lay of the land here as we really think about protecting you, your family, your friends today for the future. As people, the bad guys on the internet get more and more savvy, especially if you've tracked any of what's happening between countries and between how they're putting in what they call little worms, if you will, into routers that watch the traffic go by. It's crazy what's happening. That's why we want to make sure whatever information is passing through there is not our primary phone number, our primary email. You follow? Is this over your head? If it is, just comment below, let me know. I'll be happy to film another video that goes deeper on this or to answer your question in the comments, whatever that is for you. Make sure you're taken care of. Finally, do not post your home address. Most people, I don't think, do that. It's kind of easy sometimes to look that up, depending on how long you've been at the address you're at. Because these are the critical pieces of information that they need to start the process of taking or controlling your identity and your accounts. So to recap what we've shared so far, step 1 is the fundamentals. Try not to publicly share the critical 5. Your social security number, the banks that you use, or bank that you use, your primary phone number, your primary email, your home address. Now we talked about how do we know what our primary phone number is and da-da-da-da. So there's 2 options for creating what I would classify as a primary phone number and a primary email address without having to incur, minimum costs if you're going to do it through the one service I'll recommend. Here you could use a service like Google Voice and make that your primary number and have it forward to your actual number. So the people on the internet only see the Google Voice number. They do not see your real number. Second, for your email address, anytime you put information online publicly, perhaps you'll use your secondary email address. So like a Hotmail account or an Outlook account. And maybe you'll have that forward to your primary email account. But your primary email account, this is the one you use to log into things, critical things like your bank accounts, your wireless phone account, these kind of things, needs to be hidden, secured somehow as we move into the future. You follow? One of the services I recommended, as I talked about, was hushmail.com. Hopefully this is helping you so far. How we doing? Is it good? Just want to make sure you're taken care of or dialing this in for you. Cool? Thumbs up. All right, number 2, prioritize your level 1 logins. What I consider level 1 login is if it got compromised and they took over your identity in that particular service, solution, whatever it is, that it would potentially devastate your life. Meaning they got into your bank. They got into your shared files. They got into your Google Drive. They got into your contacts. And they emailed all your people saying things from you that weren't necessarily nice. Seen it all. Been down that road with clients. You follow? So your level 1 logins, first and foremost, the bank. Second, got a big list here. I want to make sure I'm hitting it out for you. Your phone service. Third, your core or primary email account. Fourth, if you use Google Drive, your Google Drive account, anything you're using that has a lot of files that could have critical information about you, that would give them more information about this stuff, bank accounts, any accounts you've got, retirement accounts, that kind of stuff. You follow? A lot of people, they'll store that in Google Drive. They also store it in Dropbox. So you want to lock down or prioritize your level 1 login for Dropbox if you're using a file sharing service. Even Dropbox is secure, but if they got into Dropbox, which they can do online, and they got some data or just added their account, their computer to your Dropbox account, and it completely mirrored what's in Dropbox on their computer, and then they disabled it, what kind of data would they get into? This stuff just gives me the chills, not in a good way. Next is your note-taking app. So that could be Google or Evernote. Could be OneNote. It could be the text documents inside like iPhone or something equivalent on Android. Those kind of things. Because a lot of people are tracking a lot of information in their note-taking app that could be related to this. I've seen some people tracking their usernames and passwords in their notes. And that's a huge no-no. If they got a hold of that, there's their gateway into everything, right? Whew. Next up, any project managers like Slack, Basecamp, where you've put years and years of data with clients, maybe passwords, those kind of things, they have to be locked. I hope you're seeing what prioritizing your level 1 logins is all about. You following so far? Pretty intense, isn't it? You're probably thinking, oh my goodness, where do I start? Well, I hope we've painted the frame for you. The 5 critical pieces of information you just do not want online today, publicly, like shareable. Second, you're prioritizing your level 1 logins to assure each of them, you know what they are, because the next step is to really go through and lock them down securely. Number 3, stay away. Well, there's the next 2 steps help with this. Stay away from using Google or Facebook authentication. And what I mean by that, and I'll assure that you see an example of that right here. What I mean by that is this. Some services like Evernote let you log in with your own email address and your own password, or they say just log in with my Google account. But the problem is, Evernote, if you use it the way a lot of people do, including me, contains a lot of critical personal information. And if they were to overcome or get your Google account and look through it, they would see that you have that connected, potentially, to your Evernote account. And they would just be able to log into that too. Whereas if you had a separate password and email for Evernote, even Dropbox I think lets you do this, where you can log in with Google, that's a less of a chance of them being able to get into that account along with your Google account. You follow? And that's why the critical 5 are important, but all of these things, really, really important to know. So be careful about using or don't use, I would challenge you not to use Google authentication, Facebook authentication for any services. They're trying to do that, and the first time I saw that, I was like, no, because if Google became inaccessible to me, I wouldn't be able to access this too. Not going to happen. So I'm going to use an email address and then a password that's separate than Google's login. You follow? I hope this is making sense. Like I said, you'll see an example of this in the recording. I'm going to put that in for you to make sure you got it. Use a password manager with complex passwords. So what does that all mean? There's a couple password managers that are really popular. The one I prefer is called 1Password. Another one is called LastPass. The reason I've always loved 1Password is that if the internet's down, I can still use it because it stores my passwords encrypted on my local computer, on my phone, even on my iPad. And it requires authentication to get into, and you can lock it down. So if somebody grabs your phone and they're like, hey, let me see your phone, they can't get into it on your phone. Does that make sense? 1Password's really good about this. I consider them to be one of the leaders in terms of password management. Now the trick is, if you're following along this idea and you have a primary email account for these level 1 logins, is that you have different passwords that are complex for each of those logins. So what is a complex password? The way I create passwords, I let 1Password create a randomized 24 character. It's got characters in it like A through Z, numbers, exclamation points, those kind of symbols, if you will. And I let it generate it randomly, and then I pop it in, change my password to that. I don't use anything that could potentially even be cracked anymore. And I've been going through all my accounts and doing this, especially in light of a lot of the articles. And I'll link to 2 of them below that will help paint the frame about SIM card hacking, which we'll cover in a minute, and also online identity theft, that really showcase the struggle here. So if you have any passwords that are simple and easy to guess, like your dog's name or whatever, and they're a level 1 login, you must pause this video or stop, go change that right now to something more complicated. Or go to 1Password, get the app, get the program, start creating passwords, keeping track of them in a password manager. Total side note for you is, remember, if you use a browser like Chrome or like Safari, a lot of times they'll sync your passwords between your devices. So I've stepped away from using Safari, Chrome, Firefox for storing passwords, just in case they were able to get into my account. iCloud for Safari on the Mac, my Gmail account, which is the way it syncs on Google, and then Firefox has its own way you can put an email address to sync passwords and stuff between devices that way. I'm just not fond of storing passwords in browsers. I prefer to have it in 1Password because these guys are the pros at solidifying secure ways to store passwords, but not letting you not get into them if the internet's down. You follow? Whew. I know we're covering a lot. I just want to make sure you're totally taken care of. Thank you so much for being here. Let me help you in this way. Dial this in for you. Really get you on that path of owning this. And we're about halfway through the training. How are you doing so far? Do you have a punch list of what you need to change, what you need to consider, what you need to do? Are you on it? So let's kind of take a pause and reflect. These are the 5 critical places you do not, or the things you do not want to publicize. These are the priority level 1 logins, and these may not be all of them, but these are the big ones. Be careful about using other services to authenticate into other accounts. And I think you got that message pretty loud and clear. Number 4, be sure to use a password manager because to remember all this, complex passwords. I've seen a lot of people store them in a little journal. And then I've seen 2 people over the last 3 years lose that journal and have a whole mess of stuff they had to work through to really bring that stuff back online. It's critical. They didn't even know what accounts they were missing. So a password manager is a good way to do it, although it is online. So, I just choose 1Password as the best methodology from what I've done and researched. There may be better ones, but I'm just saying this is all part of that bigger equation to protect you now and in the future. To have a healthy, wealthy, and happy life, no matter the circumstance down the road. All right, number 5, lock down your phone account to prevent SIM card hacking. You'll see in one of the articles that I have below that the PIN number, that's the PIN that you give somebody at a phone company. That's like if you go in to change to a new phone company, like to go from AT&T to T-Mobile, they'll ask for a PIN. It can be the last 4 digits of your social security number. That's like the default. And if they know your social security number, they can copy or migrate your phone service to a new phone, assuming that they did some social engineering. And as you'll see in the one article, they can command your phone to do that two-factor authentic check-in where they text you stuff. And all in a matter of an hour, they can command and control a lot of your accounts by first taking control of your phone service. You follow? I know this can be a little complicated, but it's really critical that you lock down your phone account to prevent SIM hacking. How do you do that? Each of the services that I've seen, Sprint, AT&T, and T-Mobile, they all have ways to change the PIN number, add extra security now, especially now, as this is becoming more and more prevalent, this idea of SIM card hacking and those kind of things, to lock down your account and make sure it's secure. They got little checklists. I'll try to link to some below so that you can get in there and make those changes. But I just want to make sure you understand you're not safe in the world today. And there's a lot of that going on, especially if you read the article, you see the importance of that. So just take the time and secure based on your phone provider with their instructions on it. And that may not be enough, you'll find, in a lot of the articles that are out there. But the concept is that's the first step that most people aren't doing, and you're on it. Right? Cool. All right, number 6, consider locking down your credit and your identity. So there's a couple of services out there, and I'll try to link to them below. One of them allows you to lock your credit so nothing can be opened in terms of with your name, your social security number. You'll be notified if somebody tries to open something. And you can turn it on and off. So if you're applying for a credit card or applying to buy a house or a car, you can turn that off if they need to access credit or open up something. But really critical. There's services out there that can do this. The other one is identity lock, like identity theft lock. And I think it's lifelock.com is one of the services. I'll make sure to include that link below for you. This is a way to lock down your identity. It scouts out if anybody's trying to do anything with your stuff. It even reports when your information and what parts of your information are on the dark web too. don't have LifeLock, but I do have something else like it in play. And it sends me these notes about every week saying, hey, you know what? This email address we're seeing out there on the dark web. And just so you have an idea, the dark web is where the bad guys exchange information. It's more than that, but that's for the context of what we're covering today. That's what's happening there. You follow? I know this stuff can get complicated quick, but here's the essence, the 7 steps to securing your online identity. I hope this is helping you, rocking it out. Next step, and finally, be careful and mindful of all incoming messages. You probably have had it before. They call it phishing, where it looks like it's from your bank, and it says, administrative notice, you must change your password right away. Our bank's been compromised, but it's got their logo and everything in an email, and you click it. But if you look at the address you go to, it's not your bank. It might be in there, but it's something else. And that's somebody, the bad guys on the internet, trying to get your email and your password. So be very critical of that. Also, I've been seeing it in texts. I've seen it in examples. I haven't had it happen to me personally. Facebook messages, LinkedIn messages, and even on WhatsApp. People sending these texts that seem legit. Like, why did my bank text me? Oh, I must have to click this and enter in my information. And by doing that, you've just given the bad guys your information. You follow? Yeah. This stuff can be scary as all get out. But here's the idea. And I just want to make sure you have these things taken care of for you. Try not to publicly share the critical 5. Definitely your social security number, you probably already know that. The banks that you use, bad idea. Your primary phone number, get a Google voice number or another number. You can use grasshopper.com, RingCentral, or just search ways to get a phone number that can forward to your primary phone number. Your primary email account, you might set up a new account and call it your primary email account on a service like Hushmail and use that just for logins only. Don't even give it out to people. That's just for logins. Your home address, don't give that out. That helps with a lot of this stuff, especially in the phone account. They're going to need your home address, those kinds of things. Not that they probably can't look it up because it's pretty open nowadays still with that. Prioritize your level 1 logins. We've walked through that. Bank, phone service, email, Google Drive, Dropbox, your note-taking app if you have one where you might store critical information, your project manager like Slack, Basecamp, whatever else you might use for project management. Stay away from using Google and Facebook authentication for other sites. So I hope you got that, and you may not be doing that, or you may be doing that. You might consider changing that to an email address that is this one that you're not sharing publicly. Use a password manager with complex passwords like 1Password. Really critical that you put that in play and you get those longer passwords that are random per level 1 login. Other things, other like level 2 logins are things that, you know what, if they got access to it, like an Instagram account, they could do damaging things, but it wouldn't crush me in terms of these things. You know what I mean? Like even accounts to subscription services or whatever, like Netflix. It'd be an inconvenience, but it wouldn't crush you necessarily. You follow the difference? So that's kind of how that can lay out. Lock down your phone account immediately. As soon as you're done with this training, go into your phone account service, whether it's AT&T, T-Mobile, whatever it is for you, and assure you find their support page on how to lock your account and make it more secure, and do those steps ASAP to prevent them either SIM card hacking or getting into your account in general. Cool? Consider locking your credit and your identity. And like I said, I'll have a link below for you for credit and your identity. LifeLock's an option. There's a couple other ones. Sometimes your bank will help with that. They have a service or solution that they can append into and let you know if things look questionable or people have been logging in or whatever that would be. And finally, just be careful and mindful of all incoming messages, whether that's an email, in text, through any of the online services, social media, whatever that is. Be very careful about anything saying, hey, click here and change your password. Sometimes they'll talk about urgency, got to do it right now. They'll try to get you to put in your username and password. That's a red flag, these kinds of things. But if it doesn't feel right, go ahead, come out of that email, maybe log in through your password manager. That's how I do it. So you're going right to the real account to see if there's any notifications there. Because sometimes those are legit, but they don't ever say, log in now, put your username and password in. They'll say, go over here, or they'll say, check your account on your phone or something like that. They're very careful about their wording. when it is legitimate. Although if you want to be just 100% sure, just use your password manager and go to the place that you need to go in and check the account. Cool? All right, it's time to jump into our third step, which is fireworks, please, tactics. Very clear. This is your marching orders for what you need to do immediately, if not sooner, to really go after locking this down. First of all, create your public phone and email account. And you may already have that. You may want to use what you already have. So what I mean by that is decide what you're going to do in line of these concepts here. So if you already have a phone number published, you already have an email account, you may keep those as your public persona and create another phone number and another email account, maybe a Hushmail account, maybe a Google Voice account, and start replacing that for your level 1 logins. Does that make sense? Because so often they'll send you texts, and Google Voice can receive texts, by the way. So it puts it into your email and it would forward into your private or primary email account. You follow? So what we're trying to do here is leverage the fact that we have an online persona with a public email account and a public phone number that are no way connected to these level 1 logins. I think that's the big distinction here for you. So examples are Google Voice and Hushmail, as I've talked about, as potential ways to have data or phone information here that's locked down. You might be careful using Google Voice with your bank. So you may use your normal phone number, your public one, with your bank just for convenience because it would actually need a ring. But if you have the ability to get a new phone number, you might consider that. Just prepping for what's to come, if you track on all that. Second, lock down and secure and add 2-factor authentication and complex passwords. So what does that mean? 2-factor authentication is where when you go to log in and it's not from a computer that your bank recognizes, it sends you a text to verify. And that's critical part of this guy. If somebody takes over your account and they also know more information about you and they might be able to take over your email, they can get and capture that text and have your email and get into your bank account. And that's what happened in that one article that I shared. So what you're trying to do here is lock down 2-factor authentication. If you're not familiar with what that is, all it means is that you put in a password and it texts you or uses another form of verification to get into your account, especially if it's from a computer or a device it doesn't recognize. You follow? And make sure that you use complex passwords too. We talked about that over here. Password manager like 1Password to lock that down. So that steps into our next item. Use a secure password manager or go old school and go old school. You might have a password manager and you might have a journal just to make sure you're covered in both spectrums. But whatever you do, make sure you store that journal somewhere safe, maybe in a safe, whatever that is. If you have a fireproof safe in the house, that might be a good place to put it. I don't think we need to say any more about that. Immediately secure and possibly change your primary phone number. And we kind of covered that already. I just want to make sure you understand the importance of this as everything has switched to mobile. And the thing that scared me the most is when Amazon now offers you the ability to log in with your mobile phone number. Because I don't know what it was. I was like, whoa, back up a minute. What? Because here's the thing. If somebody takes your iPhone while you're sleeping today, and if you have the kind where you press your finger and takes your finger and puts it on there while you're sleeping, they get into your stuff. Could be at a party. Could be, out and about. They grab your phone, put your finger on it. You could be napping. They could do that. Or the iPhone X, the iPhone 10 and beyond, they have that face recognition. You can do it if you turn the security to a lower level with your eyes closed. So if you're laying there and you're like this, and you put the phone in front of you, they're into your phone. And that's a little scary, because then they're into your stuff. You follow? Very, very critical here to make sure you've got stuff dialed in and you've secured your primary phone. Some people I know have turned off the ability to use their finger or their face, and they just type in a code because they have to be awake to type in the code, unless that person knows the code. This gets infinitely complicated, doesn't it? Prioritize your level ones and fully secure them. So if you have all this stuff in play or these concepts in play, now it's time to go secure these guys. You follow? I hope you're seeing how this all kind of jives as we move through time. Next, research and decide if you want to lock your credit and your identity. And I think we covered that pretty well today. Whether you're going to use a service online that lets you lock or unlock your credit on demand so that nobody can sign up for accounts. And if you want something that's watching out for your identity, making sure nobody's taking it or signing up for things with your name, social security number, and all that kind of stuff. You follow? Next up is research. Next up is share number 7 with everyone you know. And that's the critical part here. If you found this video helpful, if you found this checklist helpful, please go ahead, share it with whoever. My job is just to assure you're taken care of and they're taken care of and they're thinking through, kind of playing offense for the future on how to go through, live healthy, wealthy, and happy without getting into a lot of problem. And it's unfortunate that some people that I know personally got locked out of online identity, had money stolen, lots of money through a PayPal account, and have not been able, a year later, not been able to get it back. And it was to the tune of 5 figures because they didn't have this stuff in play. A lot of this stuff in play. And you got to be careful because these guys that are online identity crackers now, they are incredibly talented and they will scout out. One other big tip for you is never ever use unsecured Wi-Fi. If you're at a coffee shop, at a library, whatever that is, to log into any of these accounts. Because if it's unsecured Wi-Fi, there's a high level chance that people are sniffing. It's called network sniffing, or watching you. These kind of things, cameras are everywhere, right? Very, very critical that you're cautious of where you're logging into this stuff and how you're logging into it. I hope I didn't scare you too much, but I hope I helped you prepare for what's coming and what's happening right now. If you have any questions or some of this stuff went over your head, please comment, let me know. Join our monthly Q&A a little later, and we'll talk it through. We'll kind of prioritize for you and kind of sort this out. More than happy to help you. My job on this beautiful planet is to help you live into the 5 Ps, and I think today, dial that in major ways. 1, to live more purposefully. 2, to live more passionately, enthused, and engaged. And it's hard to do when you got your identity. You had identity theft. 3, to really bring positivity and joy into everything you do. Again, hard to do if this is going on. Identity theft. 4, to really go after living productively. To strategize and be productive about life. This was a huge part of today. And number 5 is to live profitably too. And I got to tell you, a big part of profit is controlling where you're spending or who's taking your money. And it's a big theme of today as well. That all being said, thank you so much. Let me know if you have any questions, comment below or join our Q&A and we'll take care of you. Or email me, whatever that is for you. Thank you so much. Take care. Goodbye. We rocked it.